The Dorian mode is the second mode within the major scale. First of all, let's get stuck in with showing you how to play it and showing you the shape, then showing you how I practice the shape. Then I'll explain the theory behind Dorian, and then I'll show you how it's linked to the Ionian and how to practice both the Ionian and the Dorian together to work on expanding your knowledge of the major scale throughout the neck when you're improvising or writing. So first of all, the shape. We're going to do A Dorian, which puts this in the key of G major, and I'll explain why it's in the key of G major and not the key of A after we've learned how to play it. So the shape in A Dorian goes 5, because that's our A note, 7, 8 on the low E string, and then on the next string it goes 5, 7, 9, and then on the next string it goes 5, 7, 9. Then on the next string, the G, it goes 5, 7. Then on the next string, the B, it goes 5, 7, 8. And then finally on the high E, it goes 5, 7, 8. So if I played all of that together, we'd have this. And the main thing is to remember the shape, just like the Ionian mode, not particularly the frets. So you want to remember the distance between the frets. If I was playing in a different key, say I moved it up 2 frets, then everything would move up 2 frets. So remember those shapes on each string, and let's just demonstrate it up by 2 frets. So this would be B Dorian, which will put this in the key of A major. The shape does not change. Now the way I would practice this is whenever I pick up the guitar, say I just learned the Ionian mode last week and now I'm making a start on the Dorian mode, I would make sure that whenever I pick up the guitar, I practice both modes as they do join onto each other. So to practice the Dorian mode, I'd do it the same way that I do the Ionian mode, is I might play it all picked first of all for 2 repeats, and then I'd do 2 repeats or so of it with slides and hammers, making it feel a little bit more like how I would utilize it within songwriting or within a guitar solo or improvising. So a demonstration of that would be great. We had a little bit of a bad note in there as well, which is absolutely fine because you need to make those mistakes to learn from them. So it's fine to make mistakes when you're doing it, and you should expect to make mistakes as well, but utilize those mistakes for working towards higher goals. As you start out, you might make quite a few mistakes, and as you go through it more and more and more and more each time, you'll find yourself making less mistakes. So now the theory behind it, and this is where in the Ionian mode, we spoke about how everything is referred to the major scale or the Ionian mode. So the Dorian mode has a flat third and a flat seventh. That means that if you compared it to the major scale, where the major scale starts out like this third note that you play within it is flattened. So that means that is 1 fret lower for the Dorian mode. And then we also said that it has a flat seventh. That means the seventh note within the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one is also flattened. So that's moved down by a fret. And that's where it starts to make sense when people say certain notes are flatted or certain notes are sharped. It's in reference to the major scale. So all these other modes and scales are built from the major scale originally. The step sequence for the Dorian mode goes from the root note, goes whole tone, semitone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, semitone, whole tone. Now, how do you practice the Dorian mode with the Ionian mode? And how are they linked together? Well, the Dorian mode is the second mode of the major scale. So that basically means if you was to play a major scale, such as G major, if you was to start at the second note of the G major, but play the Dorian mode instead of the G major, so instead of the Ionian mode, that mode will contain the exact same notes as the Ionian mode before it, as the major scale before it. It's just that it will start at the second note, so it'll start at the A instead of starting at the G. And that is what makes this mode in the key of, so in this instance, in the key of G major, as opposed to being in the key of A, because the key is referred to from the major scale, so the Ionian mode, not from the Dorian mode. So how do you practice these two together? It's real easy. You play the Ionian mode through. So I'm going to do it in the key of G. And then once you've done that through and you come back, you then go to the next note of the major scale and you play the Dorian mode, and then you're playing in the same key with those two modes, which is great, and it starts expanding your fretboard knowledge. You'll also start noticing that certain strings join up, so such as, for instance, on the end strings, you'll notice that the Dorian mode, the last two strings are exactly the same and the same position as the major, so as the Ionian. And the other strings, you'll notice that the first couple of notes within there in the Dorian are the same as the last couple of notes within the major. So let me show you how I would practice both of them together. I'd do the major, back, and then I'd do the Dorian. And you notice it feels right not to end on that note of the Dorian. It feels right to end on the first note of the major, so the Ionian instead, because that is the key. And if you're feeling really confident, you could go up in the Ionian and down in the Dorian, and then up in the Dorian and down in the Ionian, just like this. And then you hear that resolve note again. It just sounds right to finish on that note. So that's how to play the Dorian, and that is how the Dorian and the Ionian or major are related to each other and linked within music, soloing, improvising and writing.